Good? And we will call the meeting to order. If you'd do the roll call, please.
Yeah, I didn't hear it. Should have brought my glasses this time.
Dave Waddington, who is a non-voting member. Dan Delahunt.
Here.
John Fike.
Here.
Walt Matthews.
Here.
Dr. Siemens. Greg Peugeot.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum. This is good news. Okay, we have the minutes from the August 18th meeting. They were emailed to you. Hope you had a chance to read them. Any changes, questions, comments? If there are none, I motion to approve is in order.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. This is an adjudication meeting, which means that anybody who wants to give testimony has to be sworn in. It's fairly simple. If you'd raise your right hand, then repeat after me. I promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, but nothing but the truth, so help me God.
I do.
You are sworn in. Okay, the first item on the agenda is for 3201 West Monroe Street. It's a variance for zoning code section 1143.08B to construct a monument sign which exceeds the maximum square foot requirements and encroaches 10 feet into the required setback in a residential district. We have the comments from staff. Is there anything additional?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The property in question here is zoned R140 single family residential, and looks like I have some technical difficulties. One second. That should be right. Okay. So this property is zoned R140 single family residential. The surrounding zoning to the north is R2F 2 family residential. To the east is local business. To the south is R140 single family residential, and to the west is R2F 2 family residential, and also to the north is PF public facilities. The surrounding uses to this property are residential, business, and then the health department. The existing use of this parcel was residential. It is now going to be a vacant lot. The zoning code restricts monument signs to 32 square feet per sign and must not exceed 15 feet of a front yard setback in a residential district. The proposed sign is for the entrance of the Erie County Board of Health campus. As proposed, the sign will have a 5-foot front setback and will be 60.5 square feet with the sign base included. 42 square feet is the maximum for a monument sign in a residential district. The property here is zoned R2F 2 family residential, but it will be used by the health department, which is a public organization. The health department's parcel to the north is zoned PF public facilities. This parcel in question was recently acquired by the city of Sandusky in partnership with the Erie County Board of Health to be leased by the health department to create a gateway to their entrance of their campus. The current house on the site is to be removed, and the monument sign and a sidewalk will be put in its place. There's also a portion of this site which is going to become a public right-of-way in future months, Planning Commission, if that is approved. So based on these findings, staff supports the requested variance at 3201 Monroe Street and suggests the following conditions upon approval, and that's that all necessary permits are obtained through the Building Department, Engineering Department, and Planning Department prior to any construction. That's it. Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience which to speak in favor of this request? If so, please come to the podium, state your name, address for the record.
Thank you, Commission. I'm Pete Shade, the Erie County Board of Health Health Commissioner. I live at 610 Heron Drive in Huron. So I appreciate everybody's time and consideration for the project. This is, as Alec has pointed out, an attempt by us to kind of broaden our entrance. A lot of people are still struggling to find us as they come east or west on Monroe Street. Quite often folks will turn into Lions Park and navigate towards the, the bay end of the park and realize, oh, that must be the health department over there. And I mean, we hear that quite a bit, and I think even Eric did that not too long ago. So Anyway, this project would also allow us to put a parallel sidewalk from Monroe Street on the west side of Superior Street all the way down to the Health Department campus, more where our buildings are. We have a lot of folks that, are waiting for rides from, loved ones or whatnot, and sometimes they get fed up and they just start walking, particularly on a nicer day. So we want to put a sidewalk in there, of which there isn't one. So we'll work with the City Planning Commission on, the layout for how that sidewalk will be, and we're going to pay for that. The other part of that property where our sign would be going would include, a vast upgrade to the landscaping. So the house that is next door, the plan right now would be to put some nice thick hemlock greens in there, so they have their privacy. But along with the hemlock screen, we would be landscaping that area with annuals and perennials, much as the rest of the health department looks today. We take pride in the landscaping for folks that are coming for service. And, I did want to point out, the bottom of the monument sign will have a quotation on there that we're proud to call Sandusky our home. And hopefully that'll become more of a trend for other businesses in town. But that's all I wanted to say. I appreciate the opportunity.
Okay. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak against the request?
Name's Charles Poole, live at 1939 East Old Gate. My concerns about this request is just simply the size of the sign. And it's, when questions asked whether the variance is substantial, it's almost twice the size of what's normally put in a residential neighborhood. I would suggest that the code says, limits the size of signs for the purposes of, because it's negative, has a negative effect on neighborhoods. The location of the sign is very close to the house that's left. In fact, the house that's torn down has a shared driveway with the house that's left there. So there's several questions that are brought up on the, in terms for you to make the decision whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be altered or adjoining property would be substantially different as a result of this. I would suggest that if we put a 60-square-foot sign outside your house on Columbus Ave or any other residential neighborhood, you would say, if that's what you get up and look out your picture window at, that it has a substantial effect. Now, it's as simple as that. No, it doesn't affect the delivery of services to the property owner. He did know it was there. Can it be resolved through any other solution than a variance? Yes, they can make the sign smaller. I would suggest that the health department services a small segment of the community. The hospital does a whole lot more. And I would say that the number of people that we have not had over, and the health department has been there for many, many years. And I would suggest that with Google and the various apps you can find, that we don't have a problem with people finding the health department. They need to get out there. It's indicating it's a marker for the front of the marking their campus. I would suggest that Superior Street has at least 10 houses on it between that marker on the corner and the health department itself. So my argument here is that there's just not sufficient reason to break the spirit, and I don't think this is within the spirit of the code. The spirit of the code is to protect neighborhoods so that they maintain their property values and maintain an environment that is not commercial. And they can simply just put in a sign that's the proper size and move on from there. I disagree with what the staff came up with. I don't think it's accurate for the reason that I just stated, and I hope the project's successful. I suggest that they should follow the rules, and just because this is a government-to-government kind of project, I would suggest that if you have such little reason to justify changing this to do this for them, I don't see how you can tell anybody no. This is twice the size, and it's going to sit 20 feet from somebody's house. And there's absolutely no reason, driving down Monroe Street, that a sign of the proper size would not be seen so that people could make a turn to go down that street. So, thank you for listening.
Is there anyone else in the audience wish to speak against the request? Not, we'll return to the board. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, for Alex, the Lions Park sign, can you tell us about that, the size and the setbacks? Do you have any information about that? That's a relatively new sign. I don't know that ended up here, so.
Off the top of my head, I do not have that information. It is zoned differently, so therefore it would allow a larger sign. I believe that park is zoned public facilities, and they have a 40 square foot maximum for a monument sign, so it is a little bit larger requirement that they can meet. But all monument signs have at least a height limit of 8.5 feet. I can say that with confidence. The Lions Park sign specifically, without looking into that, I don't have the information at this time, but that's something I can get maybe at a future time for future reference.
And we don't know what the length, and we just know it's 60 square feet. We don't know the length and width.
That's correct. We don't have the specific dimensions. Like I had previously said, there is going to be an 8.5 foot height limit for zoning review. So they are not trying to exceed the height limit. That would force the applicant to then make it wider rather than taller if this were to be approved tonight.
And one more question, could you explain the setback, the 15-foot setback again?
Yep, so any monument sign, there's two options. It's either half of the front setback or 15 feet. In this case, half the front setback would be 12.5. The code says whichever is greater, you must follow. So in this case, 15 feet would be greater. So for any monument sign, whether it be residential or business zoning, the 15-foot applies. So they're asking for a 10-foot encroachment to that would then allow a 5-foot front setback.
Anything else? I've just got a couple of questions. Mr. Shade, if you could answer for us, the sign is going to be in the front. Do we know where? On the east side of the property, west side of the property, dead center?
And so it'll be on the west, be actually looking at that yellow triangle, the highlighted triangle. The sign would be what would be the southwest corner, the bottom left corner.
Okay.
So it really won't be, right next to that rental property per se. Their main entrance is halfway down that side of the house. And then again, with the landscaping, we are affording them the niceness of the landscaping and what that privacy brings. But the sign would be moved quite a bit towards Monroe Street.
I see on the map, there's a little blue dot there, or square, excuse me, which is towards the east side of the property, towards your sidewalk. Is that where the sign's going to go?
I can't really see that. I think, right in this area right here, you can see that.
Mr. Chairman, if I may add a comment here. The blue square is staff's recollection of previous conversations of where we thought it would go. The variance tonight is for the front setback and the size. If there is a future opinion, staff can work with the permitting process on placement because the sign can be placed anywhere on the property as long as the side setbacks are also met and the front setbacks. So in this case, the front setback and the size are what we were talking about tonight, and placement will be done in a further time.
My concern is if I'm pulling out of Superior Street, or if I'm the gentleman that lives in that house there, and I'm trying to pull out of Monroe Street, I can't see.
Sure.
There's lots of signs around town. The hospital has quite a few of them that are close to corners, and they're very difficult to see the oncoming traffic. So I'm very reluctant to, for my vote, allow the sign, or vote for the sign to be 5 foot from the sidewalk. Typically, we see a site plan showing where the sign's going to be. We see a picture of the sign showing the heights and dimensions of it. Gives us a better idea of what it is. I'm just reluctant to approve the sign 5 feet from the sidewalk.
Can I come up and speak for a moment here? You can answer a few questions.
You give us your name and address, please?
Yes. Nathan Glass, I'm with Brady Signs. So
What's your address?
701 Buckeye Lane in Sandusky. So part of the reason for the setback request, as you probably know, the business that sits on that corner is right on the sidewalk. So when you're traveling from east to west, you pretty much pass that Superior Street entrance without even recognizing it if you don't already know exactly where you're going. So to bring that sign out is going to be the only way that somebody, especially coming from east to west, is going to recognize that it's even there. The 5-foot setback that's being requested, theoretically, because of that business that sits on the corner already, you already have to pull out further into the up close to Monroe Street to be able to see both directions, to be able to make it. So you're already creeping up past the sidewalk and the boulevard area to be able to look left and right to be able to see both directions because of how that business is situated right on the sidewalk.
I'd be reluctant to make a bad intersection worse, though, by putting a sign on the other side so you block both directions.
Agreed, but I don't think that the sign itself is going to interfere with looking to your right when you're looking to leave, because you're already going to be beyond the sidewalk, and we're going to be 5 foot in the sidewalk, inside of the sidewalk, I should say.
So you're saying from the north end of the edge of the sidewalk in your 5 feet?
Correct.
Okay, so I went out to Lions Park today, stepped off their sign. They're 8 feet from the sidewalk. That Lions Park sign down the street.
Okay.
So with Mr. Fike, although the health department's doing a great job and the campus looks great, I just have somewhat of an issue at this point without seeing everything as Mr. Fike already outlined. And I would like to make a motion, if there's no further questions, that we table it until we get the actual site plan, what the sign's gonna look like. I just don't think we can make an intelligent decision tonight with the information that we currently have.
And my understanding is that site plan is in the works, or there's going to be some changes, from my understanding, to the roadway and the entrance as part of this overall project. And those site plans, I don't think are completed at this point. They're to come, so.
Well, Mr. Delahunt would prefer that we table it. It's your decision if we can detable it or we can vote on it.
We can table it, because I agree with you. I think I'd like to be able to present, a snapshot or a live visual, if you will, of the house gone, however we can do that graphically.
Yeah.
And kind of place the sign there. And I think what we'll be able to do is show Nathan's point of, the bar right on the corner, why we're asking to creep up a little bit, but it really wouldn't impact anyone who isn't already having to do that because of the bar. And if we have to move it back a little more than 5 feet, I'm fine with that. It's got to be 8 feet. I'm just looking for a sign. I'm just looking for something up there that screams to people, hey, the health department's back here, turn here. So whatever hybrid compromise we got to come to, let's do it. Sure. I'm fine with that.
Okay, is that a motion?
Yeah, I have a motion to table.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Please, roll call, please.
Dan Delahunt,
Yes.
John Fike,
Yes.
Walt Matthews,
Yes.
Greg Peugeot.
Yes.
That is tabled until they bring the information back to us.
Perfect.
It'd be hard. Depends on how big that guy's driveway is.
Yeah, we can talk about it next time.
Yeah. The second item on the agenda is an application at 615 Anderson Street for zoning variance to zoning code 1145.17G to construct a 6-foot-high fence in a side yard in a residential district. We have the staff comments. Is there anything additional?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This property is zoned R140 Single Family Residential. To the north, east, south, and west is also zoned R140 Single Family Residential. not relevant to this application, but it is also in our transient overlay district. The surrounding uses are all residential. The existing use of this site is residential. The proposed use is staying residential. The applicant would like to install a 6-foot privacy fence on the side yard setback within 615 Anderson Street on the south property line. The applicant stated the property that's to the south of the applicant's property has been a nuisance property for over a decade, and they would like to not look at the property anymore. The applicant has also stated the property to the south has recently been purchased to turn into an Airbnb, which is further solidifying their wish for privacy. The zoning code restricts fences to a height of 4 feet in the side yard. And there is currently, if you look at the right picture on the screen, there's a tree, a pine tree on the edge of the south property line. The fence would be installed behind the tree, which would give a little bit of visual blockage of the fence in the side yard. I would like to emphasize a little bit, not all of it, obviously. The proposed fence would be set back from both homes approximately 10 feet, and the house to the south would be set back approximately 20 feet from this proposed fence. Based on these findings, planning staff is not opposed to the requested variance at 615 Anderson Street and suggests the following conditions upon approval, and that's that all necessary permits are obtained through the engineering, building, and planning departments prior to any construction, and that the installed fence is aligned or behind the principal structure of the home. It does not encroach past the front facade into the front yard.
Okay, thank you. I forgot to say, due to personal reasons, I've got to abstain from voting on this, so voting and discussing. Mr. Patterson is a school board member. I work for the school board, so.
Okay, understood. And to the chair, if I may add something, since Mr. Fike's abstaining from this request, all 3 of the remaining voting members have to all vote yes or no for a item to pass.
Okay, so at this time.
Good afternoon. I'm Tom Patterson, 615 Anderson Street. Thank you. Good afternoon, gentlemen, and Quinn. Quinn was a former neighbor of ours. It was nice to see her again. What we're planning on doing, and just to be corrected, we just got word on Monday from the city that the pine tree, could you bring that slide back?
My apologies.
The pine tree there has been donated to the city it'll be harvested on the 4th of November, and it's going to be in the Mylander Park for Christmas. What we're doing is that we're requesting for a fence to go up there. There will be a fence no matter what, but we're going to do the right thing. We're coming down here asking for the request. In a perfect world, I would have loved to have a 10 or 12-foot fence there. Really tired of looking at the place. Over 10 years, there hasn't been anybody occupying it. And also prior to that, there has been renters in there that have left cars and boats in the yard. They have dragged them across our driveway. And in fact, there was one in their garage back there, and they drug it across our lot and down our driveway to get it out of the backyard. But at this time, I would ask you to consider that. We'd like to use the side yard. In fact, I even bought 2 brand new trees to go in there from Barnes Nursery yesterday, and we'd start to like to use that. And then I'll probably be coming back here because we want to put addition on the back of our house a little bit for addition. So we'd like to use that area. I don't have anything. Do you have any questions of me? Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Nice seeing you again, Quinn.
Is there anyone else in the audience who would speak in favor of this request? Is there anyone who wishes to speak against this request?
My name is Rex Cole. I own the property next to the Pattersons here, and I've had that property for 30 years. It used to be a rental. Like he said, I did have some undesirable renters in there. So I kept it vacant now for the last 8 years with anticipation of possibly doing an Airbnb. But I decided to put it up for sale, and the house has been kept up. I don't understand why he says it's a nuisance. You know, he calls the city for the littlest things. So anyway, it's been kept up. There's no code violations. So I did have somebody working there, and apparently Mr. Patterson came over and says, "Hey, what's going on here? This place is for sale." I said, she said, "Well, yeah, it's for sale." "Well, I've been wanting to buy this house for all these years." And so he had a problem with the fact that I put it up for sale. Possibly somebody's going to buy it and maybe put it into an Airbnb, because it's in that transient rental zone. So it's been empty for 8 years. It's been kept up. The lawn's been mowed. And he did address the situation years ago with boats and all that, and I kicked those renters out. It's been empty now for 8 years. So what I'm concerned about is where the fence is going to go. Is it going to inhibit the parking and off-street parking? Because if it's going to do that, then, people that possibly would buy this house are going to be forced to park in the street. So I have some photos there of me parking there just the other day. You've got a, yeah, so what I'm concerned is that fence going to inhibit the parking? And if it is, can they set the fence back a couple, 3 feet or whatever it takes in order to be able to use the off-street parking there? That house is over 100 years old, so, the lot lines back then didn't anticipate, people having a fence along there. Because how are you going to, park in your driveway if you can't get out of your car? If you look at those photos, you'll see what I'm talking about. Like I said, I'm not opposed to the fence. It's just, are they going to set it back a couple feet so you can use your driveway? If not, whoever buys this house, they won't be able to use the driveway. If the 6-foot fence, you can't even get out of your car.
Sir, just to answer your question, as I understand, the fence is going down the property line. He's allowed to put a fence up.
Yeah.
Not 6 foot is what he's asking for, but I think 3 feet is for parking, 4 foot for the back.
4 foot for the side, 3 foot decorative on the front, and then 6 feet for the back.
But he's allowed to put a fence right down the property line, so
Yeah. Now, is that the property line, is that where the, if you look at the photos here, is that where the I guess it's
I would guess that that's a survey stake.
a stake? Okay. So then that's going to be right along that curb, that's driveway curb, right? You see that driveway curb here? Is that where the fence is going to go?
I can tell you, he can put a fence up, but it has to be on his property.
Okay. So if it goes along that curb, then you aren't going to be able to get out of your car on that side of the driveway. So,
Do you have an objection to the height of the fence, 4 foot versus 6
no,
foot?
just access to get out of the car.
Okay.
I don't care if there's a fence, but if it's on that property, how are you going to get out of your car? No, say somebody buys this property, it is for sale, and they put an Airbnb, transient rental, and you get people renting it, they're going to be forced to park on the street. I mean, you got off-street parking, you can't even use it if a fence goes along. If it's right on the property line, you can't get out of your car. Look at that. How are you going to get out of your car? How are people going to, say somebody buys that property, going to get out? So they're going to be forced to park on the street. And you got a long driveway there.
Concerns, but we're talking about a height of a fence, not where it goes. We have no authority to tell them.
Oh, okay.
Can or cannot put a property line 3 feet in, 6 feet in, or on the other side.
Okay.
We're just talking about, he's going to put a fence in, he's allowed to put it on his property. The variance request is to go to a 6-foot height.
Okay, I see.
Through the
All right,
chair,
well,
if I may comment, there's a future, also a permitting process that will be followed after this if it were approved. And if you'd like to exchange contact information after the meeting, planning staff can look at your request further. And for the permitting process, we could put on the condition that we'd like to see it offset off the property line a bit.
Okay. Yeah, as long as the property, I mean, it's okay to have the fence, it's just you got to be able to use your driveway. And if that fence is going to go there, I won't own the properties for sale, but like I'm thinking if people have to park on the street and you got a driveway, it's kind of ridiculous to have a driveway and you can't even use it. So anyway, that's why I'm here.
So, just one question for you, Rick. So, you're not objecting to the fence? and
No.
We have no authority to tell Mr. Patterson which way to put it. Do you have an objection to the height?
No. No, I don't have a problem with the fence at all. I understand where he was coming from 8 years ago when I had some undesirable renters in there. And, I kicked them out and they kind of beat up the house. So I kept it empty with the anticipation of possibly doing something with it, maybe an Airbnb. It's in the rental zone, the transient rental zone. So that was my idea. I just kind of put it on the back burner. And then a friend of mine says, hey, why don't we list it, put it up for sale? So she stuck a for sale sign. We've had quite a bit of interest. And most people are from out of town, from Cleveland. And, they're possibly going to maybe use it for Airbnb or a second home. But the fence is okay. It's just, I'd hate to see somebody not be able to use a drive, and then you're going to be parking on the street, and I know the city is concerned about off-street parking when you have rental property, and if you have off-street parking, you can use it, that's great, but if you can't, you're going to be clogging up the street. So that's where I'm at on that. I don't know if Mr. Patterson would prefer people to be parking on the street, because that's what would happen if somebody buys it and puts in a transient rental, they'll be clogging up the street, so. You might want to think about where you put the fence, Mr. Patterson. Set back a little bit so people can actually use the driveway.
If you could just address your comments to us, please.
Pardon?
If you would address the comments to here only, not to...
Oh, okay, all right.
Thank you.
So anyway, that's my concern is, the fence. And obviously, you aren't going to rule on where it goes, but how high it is. So, the fence is going to inhibit people from parking. So that's my concern.
Thank you. And staff appreciates your concerns and comments. I look forward to talking with you after the meeting and getting your contact information.
All right, thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience who would speak against this request? If not, we return to the board. This motion is in order, if there's no questions.
Motion to approve the variance?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions on the motion? If not, please call the roll.
Walt Matthews?
Yes.
Greg Peugeot?
Yes.
Dan Delahunt?
Yes.
And I abstain.
Oh, do I call your name and say that? I'm sorry.
Okay.
John Fike?
I abstain.
Okay.
The variance is approved. Okay, the next item on the agenda is for 1131 Erie Boulevard, the variance for zoning code 1145.10 and 1145.17G to expand a 6-foot fence in the required front yard setback in a residential district. We have the comments from staff. Is there anything in addition?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This property is zoned R140 single-family residential. To north, east, south, and west is also zoned R140 single-family residential. The surrounding uses are all residential. The existing use of this site is residential. The proposed use remains residential. The applicant would like to install a 4-foot vinyl privacy fence in the required front yard setback at 1131 Erie Boulevard. The current fence is a convex shape, scalloped, and it's currently wood. The fence will be changed to a straight top, no scallop style fence. The applicant wishes to extend the current fence length from 28 feet adjacent to the sidewalk and street to 47 feet. The fence, as proposed, would align with the side segment of the home architecture, so there is a bump out of the house that this fence would align to going north-south. This parcel is unique and does not have much allowable yard to place this proposed fence for a backyard use. Being on the corner lot, this further restricts the area requirements for a backyard. So based on these findings, and given the fence had been approved previously, staff is not opposed to the requested variance at 1131 Erie Boulevard with the following conditions upon approval. All the necessary permits are obtained through the building engineering and planning departments prior to any construction. The fence is decorated and landscaped along the setback, the current setback of approximately 1 to 2 feet from the sidewalk, and that the existing setback that the fence currently has remains with the new fence installation.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who speak in favor of this request?
We're in favor, but if anybody's opposed, then I'll come up afterwards. We're the homeowners.
I'm looking for someone else in the audience. We'll start there. Is anybody opposed to this request? Okay, now, those who are in favor of the request. If you want to say something, please come to the podium, give us your name and address.
Todd Parrish, 1131 Erie Boulevard. Should I sign in
We
eventually? All right. We're the homeowners. All we're asking for is just go extend out. We're replacing the whole fence, the whole wooden fence. We've already gotten a beautification grant from the city because we've got a new roof, siding, gutters on our house. We've absolutely beautified everything with what we have. We're asking for 18 feet of extension from that wood fence, but it will now be a white picket fence and replacing everything that's existing, but just going extra 18 feet. That's all we're doing.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
What kind of materials are you using for the fence?
It's white vinyl. It's professionally installed by Fremont Fence.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
I have a question, if I may. Just for clarification, is it going to be a picket-style fence, or is it going to be a privacy-style fence?
Correct. Picket.
Picket style, so
Yes.
there's going to be
Yes.
openings?
Yeah,
Okay.
it'll be wider openings than what's existing now.
Okay.
Yes.
No other questions? The motion's in order.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions on the motion? If not, please call the roll.
Greg Peugeot,
Yes.
Dan Delahunt,
Yes.
John Fike,
Yes,
Walt Matthews.
Yes.
the variance is approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is 630 Cold Creek Boulevard, a variance to a zoning code section 1129.14 to allow a 3-foot 10 inches of encroachment into the minimum side yard setback in a residential zoning district. We have the staff's comments. Is there anything additional?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This property is zoned R175 Single Family Residential. To the north is R175 Single Family Residential. To the east is PF Public Facilities. To the south is R175 Single Family Residential. And to the west is R175 Single Family Residential. Surrounding uses of this property are both residential and agriculture. The existing use of this site is vacant with future plans to develop as a residential use. And the parcel is located within the Cold Creek subdivision and is in the process currently of being developed for a single-family home. The code states there should be a minimum of a 5-foot side yard setback from the property line for a structure in an R175 single-family residential zone. The applicant is seeking a relief of 3-foot 10 inches to meet the criteria of the zoning code. The 6/30 of 2022 approved site plan showed a 12-foot setback on this side of this property. The variance requested shows 1 foot 2 inches of side setback at this location. This parcel is unique in shape. It is not squared and is approximately 68 feet wide on the front yard parcel line and 129 feet wide on the back yard parcel line. The parcel length to the north is 160 feet, and then to the south property line is 171 feet. In all, the total parcel square footage is approximately 16,000 square feet. The parcel does meet the minimum lot size requirements and minimum width requirements as a buildable lot in the city of Sandusky. There is over 25 feet of usable side setback space as proposed to the north. The minimum is 5 feet on one side and a combination of 15 feet for both sides. So the current setback at 25 feet to the north exceeds our current minimum requirement by a substantial amount. Staff has reached out for an explanation on what the full story was on why the 12-foot setback is now only going to be 1 foot and 2 inches. We did not receive an answer as of this meeting. The adjoining parcel to the south is not buildable and is a natural area reserved for public access. It's currently city-owned. If this request is approved, a 1 foot 2 inch setback of the home is at risk of access issues. As an example, if a fence were to be installed on the property line by the city. Staff is also concerned that the proposed building corner of the house, that is the 1 foot 2 inches from the property line, is intended to be a walkout porch, which would then walk out to the reservation area, further causing concerns on access issues by the public at this site. Planning staff was told by the applicant, the contractor for the foundation messed up the location, which then required the variance. Planning staff learned from the building department later that the contractor who poured the foundation was Mingus Builders, who is the applicant, or part of the applicant. The foundation was not placed properly based on what was approved by planning staff. Planning staff reached out to other departments for this request for additional information. The engineering staff had this. No stormwater permit was issued to the applicant prior to the basement construction, and also the tree removal along Cold Creek. They also have been cited for an improperly installed silt fence on the site by the engineering department. The building staff had a comment as well. A stop work order was issued at this building on August 11th of 2022. This was closed on October 11th of 2022. During this time, the building department documented work to continue happening on the structure, and work continues to happen on the structure without permits being issued. They further commented that the foundation was built prior to any permits being issued by the building department. The application fails to provide a sufficient rationale for granting the variance. Furthermore, the granting of the variance would have a negative impact on the adjacent city-owned reserve area and any public individual would like to access that site. Therefore, planning staff opposes the requested variance at 630 Cold Creek Boulevard. If the variance is at all approved, staff requires the following conditions upon approval, and that's that all necessary permits are acquired through the building, engineering, and planning departments prior to any further construction.
Thank you.
Is anyone here for this variance?
Okay, you want to speak in favor of this request?
Yeah.
Please come to.
Gavin Mingus, I'm actually the property owner. Let me come up here. All right, my name is Gavin Mingus, and I'm the owner of the property, 630 Cold Creek Boulevard. Basically, I had a buddy of mine pour the footers and do the block work, and I had to move the house over a little bit to meet the back setback and the front setbacks. And I have a side load garage, and you can't, if your driveway's not 20 foot wide, you cannot fit two cars like side by side in a driveway. So we kind of moved it over. Actually, I'm getting rid of the walkout basement because it's so close to the property line. I was hoping I didn't have to, but that's going to get blocked back in, and pretty much that's it, I guess. So I'm just asking for if I'm okay to go closer to the right side of the property line so I can allow two cars to fit in my driveway without somebody having to go outside and move their car to get another car into the, like, pull one out and then pull somebody back in, basically. That's all I'm asking for. And all the permits and stuff are handled. My dad actually, he builds houses and stuff and owns a company, so he kind of let me go on this one, and yeah, I messed up a little bit. So I didn't, actually wrote a check for the permit, and then I closed my bank account and opened up a new bank account because I didn't like my old bank, and that check bounced, so I came down a couple days later and paid cash, and everything is pretty much submitted now, so. And nothing got really worked on after the stop work order. The only thing that happened was I finished backfilling my basement with stone, like the outside walls, before I had clay and dirt fall in the hole, and then all my footer tiles would be pretty much damaged and obviously wouldn't work anymore. So that's it from me.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak in favor of this request? Is there anyone who wishes to speak against this request? Now we return to the board. Any questions?
For Alec, does he have all the permits now? Is he good to go, or?
He did have an approved site plan through planning and zoning, which was not followed, which is what brings us to this meeting. As far as the building and engineering plans, the planning staff is unaware of if that is true, if they are approved or not.
There's a picture I'm looking at, the aerial view. It appears it's beyond the property line. It's not even like a foot and 2 inches within the property line. Is that an accurate depiction?
The rule of thumb for any auditor map is within a foot or two. So for an exact measurement on where exactly that property line is, this is probably not an accurate representation of that. But there, to add to that, staff has concerns of encroachment on this property specifically, which we think the board should take into consideration.
And did I hear,
Should I come back up?
yeah.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, that if you could answer that question.
Yeah. So basically, when the city does like a boundary survey, it can be 1, 2, even 3 feet off. And I actually had another guy come out and I did a boundary survey, and I'm like a foot and 10 inches, I think, off the property line. So
With that corner of your property right there? Or
that
the
corner,
home?
yeah.
The actual home?
I-
That's your walkout right there, right?
Yeah, but the walkout's going away. So that corner, the first corner that's the front of the house, and then there's a little bump out. So I actually it actually was, I'll be honest, it was over the property line. So I cut everything back. I moved the whole entire house back pretty much. And then I redid the bump out, so I made the 3 foot. So the bump out's 3 foot, and then I think the corner of the house is like a foot, 10 inches.
So you're keeping the walkout though, did you say?
That's just a bump out. That's just a Jack and Jill bathroom for upstairs, but the bump out's getting closed in.
Are you talking, when I drove out there today, so it looked like a walkout right into the creek, and I feel badly. I think if the creek floods, your house is gonna flood.
Oh, yeah, no, that's getting closed in, so. And actually, they redid that flood zone, that's not
Is
really
that
in
the
the flood
side
zone.
of the property that you want to put your drive on too?
No, that's the
That's on the
left
other
side, yep.
All right.
The only reason I'm moving the house over is so I can fit, because it's a side load garage, so I have to come in, and I have like a bigger truck than like a little car, so I gotta come in and make that right. And if my driveway was only 15 foot wide, I wouldn't even be able to get into my own garage. Unless I spun the whole entire garage around so I could just be a straight pull in instead of a side load, but then that would change basically the whole entire back of the house.
You said that your property's not in the flood zone anymore?
No, it's because I went through that when I was getting a property, if I had to pay for flood insurance or not, and I don't have to pay for any flood insurance because it's not in the flood zone.
My concerns are specifically, where is that house exactly? I'm reluctant to give you an affirmative vote unless you come back and say, hey, I'll get it surveyed, come back with a survey that says this is exactly where it is.
I have a boundary survey. I have the paperwork in my truck.
You had a surveyor do it?
Yeah. I got,
They located your
it's
house?
stamped and everything, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, can you go grab that for me?
You know, my concerns are exactly where it is.
Yeah, no, I get it.
You know, if it's 1 foot 2 away, you know, you're gonna have a hard time doing any maintenance repair on that side.
Yeah.
If the city ever decides to put a fence in like they said they may, it's gonna be worse.
They'll put a fence right there.
They can go right down the property line.
I've lived back, my parents live on the other side of me, and like, they were supposed to, I've never seen, the city doesn't even mow back there hardly. I mean, they come when the grass is knee high.
Well,
My dad takes care of his property, half of it's a reserve too, he takes care of that. So he planted grass on the hill. The city came after me and said that I ripped out a bunch of live trees, and I'm not gonna say any names, but somebody, my neighbor, had said that I was ripping down like 100-foot trees. All it was dead brush. I cleaned it up exactly what my dad did on the other side. He cleaned it up, planted grass. I've not seen a single person back there use a silt fence. The city came after me for not using a silt fence. Nobody back there has used a silt fence. I've seen so many houses go up. So I'm building my house back there. I have another house going up back there and another one. And I'm the only one back there that has a silt fence. So I don't know why I'm getting targeted so bad. I get it with the tearing off like the old brush and stuff, but it was nothing but dead trees. I'm gonna plant grass there. And
I think, I'm not saying you're being targeted. I think part of the problem is you started without a permit.
yep, And that-
You're in the
and-
business, the first thing you should have done is gotten a
Yep.
permit. You know,
and I actually just started taking over my dad's business, and I did kind of mess up, and I didn't really turn in my permit. I thought I didn't have to really turn that stuff in until I started. So I'm 20 years old. I'm just trying to build my first house, and I messed up a little bit, but I don't see any of that hurting anything on the reserve property. Like I said, I've been back there for 20 years, and I've never seen anything be done with it. Let's pass this around.
Where's the measurement?
well, there's none because it's right on the property.
Is it, well, we're looking at it, looks like it's the corner of your house is literally right on the property line with no
I'm pretty sure he
setback.
said it was like a foot, 10 inches.
He's got,
He doesn't have anything on that front corner?
he said front corner's right on the property line.
I can pass it back to you to see,
Yeah,
but
let me see that again.
I can't tell
Yeah.
that it says that it's,
I mean, if you guys don't want to pass a variance, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm 20 years old and I've had about $70,000 saved up and I've used every single dollar to get where I'm at. So, I mean, I'm fine if you guys don't want to pass it, but like I said, it's a reserve property. I've never seen anything be done with it. The grass barely gets mowed. I already have cleaned it up. I've got 100 compliments from the neighbors back there. And I guarantee if you guys could, I mean, I could send out a letter to every single neighbor back there and I could probably get a signature from all of them to approve it. I don't know if that's something I could do.
No, the problem is the house is built right on the property line.
Okay,
We've got a
so,
bunch of issues here. To me, I'm not in favor of the granting the variance.
okay,
Now, if you wanted us to table this, give you the opportunity to go back to the city and to say, hey, can I get an easement from the city for 5 feet of land?
Yeah.
Stripped down there, it still belongs to the city, but it gives you an easement so that you have maybe like a maintenance easement or something.
yeah.
I don't know what the city be allowing you to do, but you'll have to work through the planning department.
And, I mean, I thought about, I think I talked to Alec about, my dad talked to him about buying it. I don't know who makes the decision on selling, like, city property. Would you guys sell me that?
These people here are all private citizens. We have
Okay.
no decision-making other than we can approve a variance or disapprove it.
Okay,
So my suggestion, I can only tell you what I'm going to do. If we take a vote right now, I'd vote no.
Yeah.
So if we vote no, you're shot down. If we table it, it gives you the opportunity to go back to the city. They may help you, they may not. But it's certainly a better opportunity to do that than it would be just to say, okay, now I'm screwed, I got to tear my foundation out and
Yeah.
redesign my house and to get the setback far enough off that you're not on the property line and, what is it, 5 foot on that side, you said?
Yeah, that's the minimum requirement is 5 feet.
So you have to cut 5 feet off the side of the house to make sure everything works, so you'll have some funny angles on the insides of the house, but, I mean, that would be the choice.
okay, so, all right, that's what I'll do.
So you're agreeing that we allow us to table it, to give you the opportunity to talk with the planning staff to see if there's anything the city's willing to do.
Yeah,
And I don't know the time of that, because I don't know what's required.
I already waited 2 months to come here just to do this, so, that's all right.
Okay,
Yep.
then a motion be in order to table it.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion to table in a second. Any questions? Call the roll.
John Fike,
Yes.
Walt Matthews,
Yes.
Greg Peugeot,
Yes.
Dan Delahud.
Yes.
The motion is approved to table.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anything additional that we have?
Mr. Patterson?
Sure.
I wish Mr. Cole was here, because he needs to hear it too. But he said that I had a conversation with him. I have never had a conversation with that man in my life. He threatened my wife. That's the truth, and I didn't realize that until a few months later. But he can use that driveway. There's enough room between his house and his garage there that he can use that driveway. It's not right up to whatever. It's not. But what has happened in the past here is that I made an offer to purchase a property, to pay for his debt that he had on it from Cincinnati Bank, the lien on from Firelands Hospital, and he would have had a lot of change in his pocket. But it was done through a third party. He refused to, on calls. We've had calls down there to this man for varmints and everything else. He has refused to answer calls, and I had to get the city compliance people in there. So when he says about chirping on him, yes, it wasn't us, but it was through the city, and that's why he's decided to sell that property. And I'm quite sure if I would purchase a property, I would tear it down. Simple as that. The house is not worth it. There's a $30,000 area in the back there where that house is leaning like this on the foundation, where there hasn't been any gutters or anything, and all the rain has gone down in there and washed out that area there. So I'm sorry about his problem, but he didn't do anything in the last 20-plus years there on that property, and we've tried to be the good neighbor. But since the realtor said that they were going to do an Airbnb with it, I don't want those people in my yard. Simple as that. And I appreciate all the considerations here that you gave me. Thank you.
Thank you.
No other business?
No other business, thank you.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.